Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, April 9th edition of the Daily Pulse, reaching the midway point of our week here in Lowell and in the world around it. A cold, windy day. Who would have guessed it was spring? But hey, at least it's not snowing. So I've had snow days. I'm old enough to have snow days in April and even in May. So I won't complain too much. And why would I complain? Because I'm here in the WellPoint studios. It's nice and toasty. I've got great company here in the WellPoint studios as well. Former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras, our regular Wednesday guest here on the Daily Pulse, is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Samaras?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. You're fired up last Thursday night, and I'm going to imagine you were fired up last night as well.
I was close to the television. Let's put it that way.
So what got the former city councilor and former mayor, the mild-mannered former councilor and mayor, so fired up? Well, we'll get right to it. Let me just quickly thank our Daily Pulse sponsors. Ray Booten, he's a licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire and a certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, or if you want that property appraised, Ray Booten is your man. That's the call you need to make. You can find him online at realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. A reminder, it's open enrollment period, so if you are insured under the state's Group Insurance Commission, municipal employee, county employee, state employee, if you're not happy with your current plan, take a look at WellPoint. If you currently are a WellPoint customer, I'm pretty sure you're happy, but hey, peek around. Maybe your life circumstances have changed. Maybe you're about to grow a family. Maybe your family has grown and the kids are about to get the heck off your health insurance, and you can maybe save a few bucks here or there. Now's your opportunity. You have until May to get it done. So we bring in the former mayor of the city of Lowell, Bill Samaras. So last Thursday night, you serve on the Lowell High School School Building Committee, overseeing the construction of the project.
Representing the MSBA, actually.
And you're representing the MSBA?
Well, that committee is part of the MSBA. It's mandated. Okay,
so you've been there since your time on the council. You were actually the mayor, as a matter of fact, at the time when it was formed. You're still there, and you were not a happy camper. You let me know that. You told me you couldn't wait until next Wednesday. And then just to throw a little gasoline on the fire, the same report was made last night, except the news got worse from last Thursday the 3rd to Tuesday night. It did. The 8th, we went from a potential spring of 2027 completion date for the high school. Now they're saying the summer of 2027.
Correct. And they were talking about movement of students and what have you. And actually, Councilor 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 was correct. He said, he gave us a nice explanation, but that's not within our purview.
Let the school committee
worry about that. We're concerned about construction. And they were somewhat reluctant to talk in detail about that.
Yeah, Mr. Dutt. Well, so I can understand part of it. Right? He doesn't want to give it a definitive price tag because if/when that price tag isn't met yet again, now they look even more foolish. Same with the estimated time of completion. So I can kind of understand. But we're really far into this project. We should know. These answers should be known by this point, and the fact that they're not is troubling, and I'm going to guess that's what's fueling your disappointment, anger.
I mean, I'm upset at it. I mean, I have to say the city council and everybody handle themselves very well receiving that type of news, and that's what they have to do. They have to listen to it professionally, and, you can raise some issues, but the city manager is going to have to go in and negotiate. But before the city manager became the manager and what have you, the work had been done prior regarding the renovation. In other words, what work had to take place in renovation, and inspections had to be done. It's more than inspection. They bring in a company to drill holes through the walls, through the ceilings, through the floors, to be able to say, is there too much asbestos? Is there this? Is there that? To find a problem. The one thing I do recall when they first came in, the one thing they would say, most construction that goes on today, especially in schools and what have you, is a combination of new buildings and renovation.
Correct.
That's where we are today. And we are experts, and we have an excellent record in dealing with this.
If I'm not mistaken, one of the reasons why Skanska was chosen to be the project manager on behalf of the city was because of their experience in
Correct.
in a combination of renovation, new, in a tight footprint, etc. Right?
Correct. I mean, and it's like we were sold a bill of goods.
Are they that incompetent?
Well, when you talk, I mean, the issue was raised last night when they said, when they were asked how big is the floor, and it's approximately 32,000 square feet, and then they took one boring, and then maybe there was a second one. There was talk. I heard one. I heard two. But in the entire on 32,000 square feet, I mean, that is not an answer. That is not an examination. That is. I mean, it's criminal in a sense to me.
Councilor Issue was brilliant. I thought he was he
did a good job.
Because he drilled down on some of these issues. If they had drilled down as meticulously as Councilor 𝐿𝐥𝐥 did, they might have known ahead of time.
He covered the facts. But I'm going to tell you, from my own perspective, when we had the Thursday meeting, there was a statement made that a lot of people didn't necessarily hear because it was sort of said quietly and quickly from Mr. Dowd. And it was that if you have a building like the 1922 building, anybody would know during that time that regulations were not followed the way they should have been, and that you would probably have problems.
Dowd said this Thursday night.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear that, but I missed the early part of the meeting, so I missed that.
But the thing is, you might watching on television, you might not have caught it.
So he's admitting that they knew that these are challenging buildings, and sometimes things were under regulation.
That's the point.
So shouldn't they have been even more meticulous in their due diligence, in their drilling, and their investigating?
I'm not a contractor. I'm not an expert. Okay.
I play one on podcasts.
Oh, okay. But as a counselor asking questions or looking to do something, when we first look, wouldn't you assume that they would take extra care because they know that during a certain period of time, buildings, certain regulations weren't followed, so they have to make sure. The 1922 building, that's half the project, basically, if you think about it, what has to be done. Yeah. And, what do? We end up with... and what I didn't like, if you looked at their body language and the way they were talking, they were somewhat angry and reluctant to talk about it. They were constantly trying to shift it to something else. But I mean, I don't think they were not assuming the blame. They're just saying, "Well, what do you expect in renovation?" That was pushed out last night. What do you expect with renovation? But when you have a company that's an expert in that area, what you expect is to understand what the problem will be.
Well, at some point, you have to put your faith in experts. Because as you correctly pointed out, there's nobody on that council that I know that has contracting experience. It is a construction manager, an engineer. Now, Eric 𝐿𝐥𝐥 has a little bit more knowledge than some on certain things. But you trust that the OPM that is hired, that is recommended by the MSBA, who's ultimately to me, that MSBA needs a bomb to be taken into that. Yeah. Not just tear it down and start the structure, the organizational structure, tear it down and start from scratch, because they have failed the city of Lowell. I got a hunch they failed a lot of other school districts as well. And we're just finding out about it now from our own perspective.
Thing is, they deal within the regulations that they deal with. I mean, it's. I'll give an example. The gymnasium, with a school the size of Lowell, that should have been a field house. And if it was a field house, it would really help all the schools in the general area. But they look at it and they say, no, this, you have so many students, this is what our rules allow you to do. And so that's where the MSBA becomes problematic. And there has to be some changes.
Well, they also apparently allow a design that doesn't have enough electrical outlets in the cafeteria to hold an election, where a gym that was built in 1980 did. I mean, the world has changed a little since 1980. We all have, cell phones, computers. You can see mine over here.
And
updating.
The thing is,
everybody has them. How could you have less outlets in a modern cafeteria than you had in an old one?
What they'll say is, look, the requirements for a cafeteria are X amount of outlets. That's it. But the thing is, we hire them to the architect and the expert on supervision of the project to say, by the way, life has changed. We need to double the, we'll say, outlets in the cafeteria to ensure such and such and such.
Correct. We knew by 2017, 2018, 2019, when this was being designed and hashed out, we knew what the concerns were. 2017. I put out a little tweet in the Facebook post last night just reminding folks that the new completion date, the summer of 27, is exactly 10 years from the moment the first vote was taken, the vote that said, you know what, let's not mess around with 100-year-old buildings. Let's go to 𝐃𝐚𝐬 Stadium and build a brand new building from scratch. The irony wasn't lost on me. A couple of weeks ago, I said, have you had a change of heart? Did you make a mistake? I'm going to ask you the question again. Did you perhaps make a mistake in voting to help keep that school where it is now and risk what we're now seeing become reality?
No, the issue was, we're not talking about the building, we're talking about service to students. And I'll never change the idea that having the high school centrally located in the downtown meets the needs of literally every student in the city of Lowell. And Judge Garrity, when there was some of the issues that were going against the school system many, many years ago, said the one thing about Lowell High School was that it was a level playing field for all students. And I subscribe to that.
Okay.
I'll stay with it.
Right.
I know there are people who, I have to be careful when I cross the street.
Look, the debate's been settled where now we need to get the best school.
Yeah.
I do want to point that as we try to figure out how to recover from this, how to go on and then make the next major decision. Arguably, that was the biggest decision the city has faced.
Yes.
In generations. But as we move on to the next ones, I just want to remind people that the 𝐃𝐚𝐬 Five, five councils at the time, and I looked at this current city council. Yeah. And you know what's interesting? Under district representation,
it's the 𝐃𝐚𝐬 people.
The vote might have been different.
Yes.
9 of the 11 councilors sitting on that board today were either on the council then, Rita Mercier, Dan Rourke, and Corey Belanger, there's 3, running for election then that year, 𝐃𝐚𝐬𝐥𝐿. And then you have Johnny Dakota, Eric Itcher, Corey Robinson, and Kim Scott, who were all, I think, have come out on the record and said they wanted that school to go to 𝐃𝐚𝐬 Stadium. The only one who voted no, who would have been a no vote on that, was Vesna Noon. And I'm not sure where Wayne Jeunesse stands. I don't know if he publicly declared himself, but it's fascinating to me that 9 of the 11 councilors today under district representation would have voted to send that school out there. So we were 2 years too late in district representation.
Really?
𝐃𝐚𝐬 crowd.
I didn't notice that.
All right. Again, it's been done. Whatever.
The thing is, there are people still fighting that fight, but the issue is, you're right. The die's been cast, and the issue is this: that is now the if you wanted to give that group the example, the classic example, this is it. But the thing is,
I just want people to trust their judgment, because they made a key call in 2017 that history has proven.
But it shouldn't have happened.
Correct.
This shouldn't have happened. This is very poor on this company's part. They were paid to first assess the situation to ensure there were no major problems. And if they were, the adjustments would have been made.
Correct. Or if somebody had foreseen this in 2016 when they were starting to play with designs,
Yeah.
what would the debate have been then?
Yeah, and then in that time we could debate all the problems we would have found at College Stadium.
Sure, we can. I'm happy to relive that debate. Maybe we'll make it a council election issue.
Well, just bring Mr. Booten in, Ray Booten.
Yeah, Ray will do it for me. Don't worry. Here's my concern. You said that there's an evasiveness about them last night, an evasiveness I've seen through all the recent meetings since I've started paying attention to those monthly school building committee meetings and the few times they've come to the council floor recently. I'm not so sure we're done with the bad news. I'm not so sure they're not going to discover even more when they do more than one boring into the untouched building yet. And I'm not so sure summer of 2027 is going to be the final timeline either. Are you confident?
No. That's telling. Not at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it might be even later than summer of 2027.
What has happened to all of a sudden say, okay, a mistake was made, and you should be confident that nothing will happen at this particular point. But you're right. I mean, that's what I saw last night was what I've seen constantly when they've talked to the MSBA group, the school committee group, that what they've done, sometimes we'll say, sloughed us off on certain questions. But the expectation would be when they talk to the city council and the city manager, their presentation would be entirely different. Last night, they were not prepared for a discussion. I mean, and I mean, they went before a group of city councils. They're lucky they get out of there intact.
Where's Suffolk? Why are we not seeing representatives from Suffolk, the people who are actually doing the work and may be able to lend some expertise into what this will cost?
The thing is, at this particular point, Suffolk is doing what they were handed, and it's the architects and it's Skanska, and they're the ones that gave Suffolk.
But they're doing different now because they were originally handed, okay, this is what you're going to do when you get to the Kirk Street building, and this is what you're going to do when you get to the Coburn building. Yeah. And now they're being told, no, we've discovered other things. I'm assuming they're the ones who discovered the loose soil, the rotted away soil. So it's just so.
You're right. I'll tell you, I didn't want to think that way, but the thing is, you raised up an interesting point. I mean, because we're talking about the entire floor, inside that building.
32,000 square feet?
Because I believe I asked the question, or somebody asked the question Thursday night, well, what about the walls of the building? I mean, what effect is this going to have?
The floor supports those walls, right?
And they said, no, the building is on foundation that works and that's intact. Okay, so the thing is, the floor is...
You don't sound like you believe that either. I'm going to get you in a lot of trouble today.
I want to believe it.
You're off the Dowd family Christmas card list by the time I'm done.
Oh, I was off a long time ago.
There's a part of me that still almost feels bad for him because he's the one that's being put in front to deliver this news.
The issue is how it's delivered, and the issue is, as I said, Thursday they made a presentation. They, in the sense, I felt they didn't want to be there that night talking to us, and then and I'm saying to myself, I hope they're going to do a better job being in front of the city council. And the thing is, I think the council behaved properly. Several councilors did bring up the issue and raise the issue, and it's going to go in for discussion. But I'm going to tell you something: if it's not straightened out, then you're going to see some problems.
We should all take heart in the fact that they're also Skanska is the company that's going to do the $273 million road bridge. You think people are afraid to drive over that now?
I live on the other side of the city.
You never have to cross that bridge. We're chatting with former Lowell Mayor City Councilor Bill Samaras. He's our guest here on the Daily Pulse on this Wednesday, April 9th. Where do we go from here with the Lowell High School project? And is there a possibility that some of that money for the cost overruns can be recovered? Let's get into that discussion in a quick moment. Let me just quickly thank our Daily Pulse sponsors. Ray Booten, licensed realtor, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, certified appraiser in both states. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, business, or commercial property, Ray Booten is your man. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. You thought you were done with your heat for the year. No. Make sure you got enough to get through the next month or two of cold weather that'll pop in from time to time. Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Thank you as well to Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to insure its most valued assets since 1982. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. Thank you to all of those sponsors. Thank you as well to our regular Wednesday guest, former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras. So again, the die is cast. Yeah. Now we know there's a cost overrun. Is it 2 million? Is it 5 million? Is it 10 million? Is it, oh my God, is it more?
Yes.
There was also a little discussion last night. Councilors
because don't forget, it's not only the cost of the project, but the projection for all the other companies that now can't do their work.
Right.
And they're not just going to say, that's okay, we'll come back when you need us.
They're going to want a little extra money. So there were a couple of little parallel discussions that were happening. And actually, City Manager Tom Golden did leave open the door to if a legal challenge is necessary, that he's willing to explore any and all options. Yeah. Ask the delegation, ask the MSBA, keep all legal options open in terms of negligence in putting this project together. So the easiest way is, well, I mean, maybe we swing for the fences and get a home run like we did when they gave us the $38 million for the cost overruns. They gave us that full amount. My hunch is with this, we'll be lucky to get whatever the number is, 68% of it from the MSBA, the other 32% the city eats. That's the ratio we've been doing this project on, right?
Correct.
Is there any chance of that? Is that something the MSBA should do? Because after all, they're the ones that set up these parameters. They're the ones that recommend certain firms to do this.
I'm going to tell you something. That's not an easy ride. I don't see that's not going to be easy.
Not in this budget climate, no.
That's the MSBA. I mean, there are so many projects that have overruns. They're not of. There might be overruns of $1 million or what have you, and they just don't step in for those type of projects. So our delegation, Senator Kennedy's been very effective in that area, but he's going to have to get the rest of the delegation to help him, deal with that issue. The city manager, he has he's been a state rep, and he's well known down there. So the thing is, and he knows how to, we'll say, go through the halls. Yeah. And so we've got the right people, but they've inherited this problem. So I think what I saw last night was the manager was just taking everything in, listening to what the city council, how the city council was reflecting on what they heard. And now he's got to plan out what steps he needs to take.
Yeah. And I think you're correct. I think between the manager and whatever connections he has from having climbed up the hierarchy on Beacon Hill, and Senator Kennedy, who's kind of the dean of our delegation. No disrespect to the rest. Remember, Vanna Howard's in her third term. She's still trying to climb the ladder and find her footing. Rodney Elliott's in his second term. But Tara Hong is still trying to figure out where he just got his office last
But
week.
Rodney has a lot of. I mean, he's worked with, been on the city council for a long time, so he has more a stronger base than the other
Right.
two.
But in terms of clout on Beacon Hill,
Yeah.
boy, this would be a good time to have a chairman of Ways and Means, like Lowell used to have with Steve Panos, or like Haverhill had when Brian Dempsey was chairman of Ways and Means on the House side. This is where that lack of experience in the delegation, I think, is going to show a little bit.
Life is very different.
And it's nobody's fault. They just got the seats opened up. They won their elections then, and that's what it is. But man, I would feel a lot better if Steve Panos, who was there, or if Tom Golden was still there.
Yeah.
So, but you don't think the MSBA thing is a viable alternative? Would you go the lawsuit route?
No, the thing is, I think it's a possibility. It's a good possibility, but the thing is, what steps do they take at this point? It's not a slam dunk.
Mm-hmm. No, God, no. No, especially not with the budget issues that the governor's having everywhere else now.
Yeah.
So, educationally, what is this delay? And they had a plan to start moving students around buildings. Was that discussed last Thursday night and at all last night? To your knowledge, is there going to be disruption? Am I going to hear the words about what did they call those things? Modular classrooms. Am I going to hear those words enter the conversation again?
I don't think so.
No,
but
you don't think so? You're not giving me a definitive here.
The issue is just knowing what it takes to run the high school. It takes a lot to run the high school if you have all your rooms. If you have everything in front of you, it still can be problematic any one day. But now when you're going to be missing, say, 1/3 of your rooms.
The biggest building, right? Kirk Street building is the biggest building there. Yeah. And I know there was a phasing where they were going to have students occupying part of the building while they were working on the other. But my question is, now that you're digging up the floor, you're now starting to run into foundation issues. Is it going to be safe to have students in that building?
No, they won't. They won't.
So what are they going to do with them?
I don't see how they have it. So the question is, you have the old trade school, that was the freshman academy. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he's going to have to use that, and then it's how do you get back and forth from that? He's got. Let's put it this way. I was sitting beside him. And I said, if I can help in any way, but the thing is...
Him being Michael Fiato, the head of schools at Lowell High School now. You were in that role for the 97 renovation. So you've dealt with it to a large degree, but not to this degree. This is great. Are you glad you're retired?
In 97, I knew exactly what I was going to have. It wasn't that wasn't easy because every 6 months I was changing the direction of the school and rooms and what have you.
But the plan didn't deviate from what they told you.
Correct.
It worked out as planned, right? Okay.
So now we're talking about a whole different approach.
All right.
And the thing is, they don't. You're right. They don't know right now what are the issues that will come from this flooring need.
So I should still keep my file photos of modular classrooms just in case? You're not instilling faith in people who are watching this. I'm supposed to be the a-hole. You're supposed to be the voice of reason. Did you not get the memo on our roles here?
What? Don't you? I like modules. Don't you like modules? They're done very well today.
If they have to close up. Well, but remember, there were 9 city councilors. There are 9 city councilors who talked about this stuff. I think you should start trusting their judgment a little bit more the next time a major issue comes up because...
We're not going to talk about modules because it'll come out here that...
Fiato, Skinner, and Golden are going to storm this studio in a few minutes.
They'll come after us with a meeting.
They will. All right. A couple of other things at last night's city council meeting. The high school debate, to be continued for at least 2 more years. And just again to reiterate, your fear is we're not done yet with that summer of 2027 ending. Lord. Last night, there was one other interesting discussion last night. There were actually a couple. And it, to me, it pointed out to a big picture issue that I'd love to get your insight on, having sat on council for as long as you did. And one of them was the auditor's contract. They're going to have the manager negotiate the auditor's contract. We talked a little bit about it with you last week in Councilor Vesna Noon. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with you. And then the Smith-Baker RFP. But there were a couple of moments where the planning dynamic, right? Who's running the day-to-day operations versus who's really running the city, right? And under Plan E, the city council sets the agenda and the policy, and then the manager executes it. But though in the day-to-day operations, those lines get blurred. And we saw that a little last night as councilors wanted an RFP. You know, they wanted input on the RFP.
Say some blur it more than others.
Yes, some of the councilors wanted it. The solicitor said, you know, let's be careful here. We're getting into, when you start to get into negotiations, that's the manager's purview. And it's different on the RFP versus the auditor because the council oversees the auditor, et cetera. But ultimately, the council decided, I forget what the total votes were, but the majority said, let's let the manager in there. And there was one counselor who said to me, I trust the city manager. Because I asked him, like, what's the big deal about you know, having the council set some parameters or whatever. And the counselor said to me, I trust the city manager and DPD to set RFP, request for proposal parameters. I'm not a planning expert. And I saw that word trust. And ultimately, that's the ongoing battle that you see between Lowell city managers and the city council that changes every 2 years in some way, shape, or form. Do you trust your manager? I remember very well that night, shortly after the election that decided the high school's fate, that it was going to stay downtown. What were we in? 1 meeting, 2 meetings in, and Jim Milanazzo said to Kevin Murphy, I've lost faith in your administration, Mr. Manager. And it was only a couple of weeks after that where Kevin Murphy decided he was going to retire. It seemed to me there was a point where the council started to lose faith in Eileen Donahue, who replaced Kevin Murphy. And I get the sense, are we at that point now?
No.
Is there, not the majority, but are there a couple of councilors who have lost faith in the manager, or are they just getting too enthusiastic in the day-to-day operations?
To me, I think, you know, the manager has allowed a lot of input from the city council. You know, he's talked about, he works well with the city council. And because some managers have not worked as well. I'm here, there's a line, neither one of us shall.
Any that you were overseeing? You want to name any? You've got no more unless you're running for election, you've got nothing to worry about.
Oh, mate, you never know.
That's right, you left the door open last week. But you understand that dynamic. There comes a point where alliances start to shift and you lose faith in that person you ultimately voted yes on to run the city.
At this point, it's not losing faith. It's wanting to be part of the process. And I think sometimes we lose ourselves. We get, you know, I want to be in there. Well, why can't I do that too? Why can't I do that? And you don't sometimes yourself, you don't realize you've crawled in, or you've gone into the other tent. You've gone into the management tent. You got to stay out. You got to stay out of that. But there are many councilors over the years who have felt that they should be working side by side with the city manager. It's not the way it goes.
I remember Ed Kennedy running to get back on the council, I believe 2011, after being away for a while. Yeah. And he was asked the United Teachers of Lowell and the Central Labor Council debate. I was broadcasting it for CAP, and he was asked about that dynamic. And he said, the way I view the relationship is the manager drives the car, but the city council is in the passenger seat with the map. Yeah, telling him where to go, and I that's still here. 15 years later, it's
a good analogy. It's a good analogy because the city council, they're supposed to be the eyes and ears of the community. That's why you have a council. So they come in, they know what somebody wants in Centerville, somebody wants in Pawtuckaville, and they bring that to the floor. Yep. And the thing is, and they tell the city manager, this is the direction we'd like to see you go. and that's it. But sometimes some of us get a little too eager, and not only do we suggest, we also write it out for you. I've seen that. I've seen that.
So you tell the manager the map says we're going right here. We're taking a right turn. But now do you grab the steering wheel, or do you nitpick the manager? like my wife, like, slow down. You're driving too close to the person in front of you. If the manager wants to tailgate, should he be able to tailgate, or should the council be warning him?
But I don't see any losing of faith. But the thing is, there are people that want to do it differently, and I think the city manager has done a good job in keeping 11 people pretty well tied together, because on sort of major issues, it's an 11 vote. But on some of the issues, like the idea of whether the auditor should be handled by the city manager or the city council, I believe in the city council just doing that. But if you look at it, when I was mayor, I did that with the city auditor. So what's the difference now? Instead of doing it with the city auditor, I did it with the city solicitor. So now all this, instead of the city solicitor, let the city manager deal with it, and when we get the package, we'll approve we'll add to it.
So that's an interesting point. I want to hone in on that, because I think you touched on something. So the Smith Baker Center RFP, that was what the city council said to me. I trust the city manager and the DPD to put an RFP together, and that kind of like I get that.
And excuse me, the city manager is not a complete expert, and that he's got is the planning department that will help him write out the RFP properly. That's it.
Right.
But there are people. Well, it should have said this.
Right.
If it said this, it wouldn't have rained that day.
Look, you know what they say, you give me 2 lawyers, I'll get 3 opinions, and you try 11 counselors. But on the auditor contract, you do bring up a point, because the auditor does fall under the purview of the city council.
Correct.
And you believe that the city council should be negotiating that.
Yeah.
But you said the city council negotiated it. You, as the mayor, were in the negotiating room along with the city solicitor.
Correct.
Is the city solicitor always in the contract negotiating room?
Yes.
Who does the city solicitor work for?
City manager.
So either it's going to be Danny Rourke and Corey Williams negotiating that contract, or Danny Rourke and Tom Golden, because he oversees Corey.
Correct.
Okay. Would the solicitor negotiate contract terms that the manager wouldn't like, or advise the council in a way that they might not
because
like?
the city solicitor, I would say, well, the the new auditor would like to see this, this, and this, and we bargain. And they would make a presentation. We'd review it together. Then we'd come in with, in your previous contract, this is Lowell. This is not a town of 1,000 people. Really, those were some of the conversations you would have.
So I'm interested in the dynamic, though. So you worked, you were the mayor when Eileen Donahue was the manager, and Christine O'Connor was the city solicitor. So you've been in multiple negotiations, correct, with you and Christine O'Connor.
Yeah.
Who was telling Christine O'Connor obviously she's the legal expert on contracts, but in terms of dollar figures, benefits, or whatever, was that coming from Eileen Donahue?
No, it's coming from the city council.
It was coming from the city council.
Which information I get from the city council.
Okay. Would the solicitor, what kind of input would the solicitor offer? This is legal, this isn't legal?
Yeah.
Would she ever offer financial terms, length of contract terms, things like that?
No.
Never in your experience.
Suggestions on length of contract, what have you. But the thing is, I'm not a lawyer, so she would interpret the contract, because everybody would come in with their own contract. And, the city solicitor would take it apart.
The other dynamic is that once you have the contract, you negotiate, it's agreed on, it still has to go back to the council to vote in executive session.
Correct.
So you were on a council of 9 instead of 11.
Right.
How often did you have 9-0 votes in those executive sessions to say, we'll take it?
On things like that, it was
pretty much 9-0?
Yeah.
Would you have were there times where there was councilors who would say, no, I don't like these terms and I'm going to...
No.
No?
No.
Okay. So you had it easy.
No, there was some, especially in contracts, time, what have you, that others believe this, but there was some negotiations before that.
But once you got that contract,
the vote
hammered out, then it became unanimous.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. One more issue last night that I have on my list. If you have anything on yours, please jump in. But the Markley Group, the big business that people know very little about, but ultimately one of the most important businesses in the country. They operate all those old Prince spaghetti factories and the old Prince Grotto restaurant. They operate that property. They need more juice. They need more energy because
it was inevitable.
AI, artificial intelligence, is driving up energy demands to the point where people are talking about nuclear power plants again. Okay, they asked for diesel generators, backup generators.
Yep.
And it was interesting because Councillor Scott pushed back a little, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, diesel generators. This is starting to go. We also have a sustainability plan and whatnot. How controversial is this going to get if Markley says this is how it has to be done, or we can't operate?"
Well, right now, they couldn't operate. I mean, the issue, the diesel generators are, if the power grid should go down on the East Coast or in this city or what have you, they have the capacity to run all their productions because they have customers like Delta Airlines. I mean, their customers are not Bill Samaras's ice cream stand.
Not your home internet and your Hulu account.
No.
So for those who don't know, the Markley Group is basically kind of a central place where all these big companies that do business, and you mentioned a couple of them, Delta and whatnot, they provide computer systems and backup for everybody else. So if for some reason the Markley Group goes down because of a power outage or disruption, a lot of day-to-day activities go down.
It would be devastating. Okay.
So how do you say no to them then? How do you vote no?
The thing is, I can understand what they did, what they've done so far. If you look at the grounds, they've maintained them very well. There's a lot of security there. It's made that neighborhood, safe and what have you. But
do they really have people with guns guarding the doors, like rifles?
I would say they have that.
Okay. I mean, I would imagine, but I never thought of it until I heard Gary Francis say it on the radio yesterday. I'm like, holy smokes.
I would imagine, I imagine they have access to something like that. But the issue is some of those generators are close to the homes or the properties.
Very close.
And now they want to, I don't have the specifics, but I know what the plan, I remember what the plans were, and the plans were for expansion. They were coming in for, this is what we're going to do. But if you let us in, if you help us with this, we're going to be hiring more people. We're going to be expanding more because we only have one way to go, and that's up. And
was that the plan? Have their backup generators always been diesel?
Yes.
And now they just need more.
That's right. But the thing is, where are they going to be placed? I mean, and they're being placed very close to the properties. I think down the road they're going to have to take over some of the properties.
Uh-oh.
They're
going to have to do it, or the city's going to have to do it by eminent domain to buy it, to have them buy it.
Yeah, just what you said about how the world has changed electronically. They're more in need.
Yes.
And the thing is, what's going to happen at this point? But I can understand the gentleman who came on. He said, "Look, come down and take a look at what we're dealing with." So the thing is, I don't think there's a ready answer right now. It's not going to be easy.
No, but this was my way of annoying the climate change activists. You folks have no idea what's coming with AI. All your political allies, they're about to dump you, and you better either get used to diesel, coal, gas, oil-powered plants, or you better get used to nuclear power plants. Pick your poison, because wind and solar is not ready to match the energy demands that AI is going to place on our grid.
I don't even think natural gas is what they would want. And the one thing about the diesel, they're self-contained. So I just think that the power to maintain that power grid, to ensure that they want to have as much control over the auxiliary power that they have access to.
Where could we build a nuclear power plant in Lowell? We already scared people with modular classrooms. Let's tell them, what if we need a nuclear power plant to help the Markley group? And yeah, I mean, you look at what UMass Lowell is bringing in. Yesterday, they had a reception for the Draper representatives. It's now official, Draper, and you know, a whole bunch of stuff is coming in. I'm sure they're going to need stuff that the Markley group is providing. It's all tied together. So where can we get a nice plot of land and build a nuclear power plant in the Mill City?
The thing is, we don't have it.
Hamilton Canal District.
we just don't have it. But I think Lowell, I mean, as tough as this economy seems to be at this particular time, and people, you know, wondering where are we going to go, I think Lowell has put itself in a position where it's going to have some serious growth. I mean,
we're gonna have
I think its time has come.
We're going to have to annex one of the suburbs, Tingsboro or Drake, and put the nuclear power plant there then.
I could see us doing that. As mayor,
just not Andover. My sister would lose her mind. Look, if Trump can take Canada and Greenland, Lowell can take Tingsboro and Drake and build a couple of nuclear power plants.
Okay, but that works for me.
Do you think we've pissed off enough people for one day?
I think so. Can you have somebody walk me to my car?
Well, the good news for you is you'll be tucked in home, lock your door by the time I post this at 12 o'clock today. Former Lowell Mayor, City Councilor Bill Samaras. It's always fun. I love the back and forth, even when we still needle each other about high schools. But ultimately, you do want what's best for the city, and that's where the focus needs to be now. Those kids deserve.
There's no easy answer, but the thing is, what has happened here is a major problem that's come up that shouldn't have come up. That's.
I just remembered. So did I hear correctly? Did they reopen the door to value engineering last Thursday and last night? Because I thought we were told, like at a month ago's meeting, that you can't value engineer, all the materials have been ordered. Did I hear some of that discussion recently?
Not really.
They're not going to cut back the scope or anything, classrooms or whatever?
Well, I think the mayor made a statement that, you know, if we had to cut classrooms or what have you. That's not the intent right now, but
the intent. I thought he had ruled it out. I thought Dowd at the school building committee meeting in March said, no, it's too late. That horse has left the barns. We've ordered the materials. We've gone too far down the design process to even value engineer.
Yeah.
So
they're basically correct. I mean, but everything's going to be said because it's all out there. So I think what the mayor did last night is put everything out onto the table and what have you. But the thing is, they have to go in and really assess what they don't know how serious this problem is. That's the thing. And it's a problem that should not exist.
And they won't know till the summer, right? This coming summer, if I heard it correctly. All right. We'll end it there. Former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras, thank you as always.
Thank you
for joining us here. Thank you to you as well for tuning in on the Daily Pulse. Did we hit enough points to tick people off?
I think we did.
I love throwing gasoline on the fire. Tomorrow, speaking of throwing gasoline on the fire, tomorrow's guest on the Daily Pulse, State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. She's in town for a little meet the auditor, have coffee with the auditor, being sponsored by the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce. It's taking place at the Merrimack Valley Food Bank building on Middlesex Street in Lowell, and there are still spaces available. So if you want to sign up, you can head on out there. I know I'll be out there, and then the auditor will be coming back here to the WellPoint studios. So we're going to drop tomorrow's show a little bit after noon. We're going to accommodate the auditor's schedule because I think it's important enough. Let's see if she'll declare her gubernatorial candidate here on her gubernatorial candidacy here on the Daily Pulse. I'm going to ask her. Why not? Or maybe she wants to run for Senate against Ed Markey. I'll try to pin her down. We'll also see what's going on with the audit of the legislature and some of the other audits. She's continuing to work on other things and some very interesting findings she's come up with about how your tax dollars are being spent / sometimes wasted. That's tomorrow, Friday. Leslie Boder joins us. As always, the Daily Pulse. We're keeping our finger on the pulse of Lowell and the world around it. So till tomorrow, everybody stay safe, stay warm, and I will catch you on the other side.